Hey guys, welcome. We are about to do our second tutorial for Camelot Fabrics and the Behind the Seams product line. Today we're going to be making the Organize It basket using their Mixology fabrics and their FoamPro single-sided fusible. So let's get started. Alright, for this project we are going to take one of my existing patterns, which is the Organize It basket, but we're going to do some piecing and mix it up a little, and we're going to use these absolutely adorable colors. I have picked a mint green for the outer basket. I've picked the green polka dot for the lining of the basket. I'm using the coral dots for the outer pockets, and then the coral weave for the handles. So we are also going to be using the FoamPro single-sided for this. This is the most popular one to have a single-sided. They do sell a double-sided, which I recommend you use when you have projects that require the fabric to be attached on both sides. But this one we're going to do on one side and turn it, so we're only going to use the one side of fusible. We use this product in our drawstring bag video tutorial, so make sure you hop on over and check that out, as well as we're using it in several other projects coming up. So make sure you like and subscribe this video and ring the bell so you're notified when the other projects are done. Also check out Camelot Fabrics blog post and social media, as we are posting on all of the platforms for this rollout. We are going to go ahead and get this started. So the first thing you need to do is cut your pieces. So we've cut our foam at 9.5 by 16.5. Then for the handles, these are 4 by 8 inch strips. For the pockets, these are 8.5 by 16. And then for both the lining and the outer basket, these are 9.5 by 16.5. So super easy to cut this up and have the pieces ready to go. The Organize It basket is a stand-up basket with pockets on the outside and then a bigger area on the inside for bigger items, or you could put some cups in there for pencils and pens and whatever you'd like to just stay organized. We originally did this with a thicker stabilizer, and the basket didn't quite stand up the way I wanted it to, so I'm really excited to see how it works with the FoamPro. The FoamPro is really nice to add some body and definition to your piece. So we're going to use this for the basket, and we're both going to see how it turns out together. So let's get started. Alright, the first thing we're going to need to do is we're going to take the FoamPro and we're going to press the outer basket pieces, one outer basket piece to each side. Okay, now if you guys see a little seam in there, I created my own fabric for this using 10-inch squares. I highly recommend using yardage, but just so you're not thrown by the little seams in there, I used a layer cake from Camelot to create this project, and they just weren't quite big enough, so I improvised. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and press this. When you press this, you're going to want to set your iron on wool. You're going to want to have water in the iron as if to steam, but do not spray water directly onto this. It's just, you want the water in the iron to create the steam, to activate the fusible dots, to make this stick to your fabric. Now, I have used lots of different products that are fusible like this, and I have to say, so far I have been very impressed on how easily these things press to our fabrics. You are going to iron with the fabric on top and the rough side of your foam on top. So this side is smooth, this side is rough. If it's rough, it's got dots on it, and therefore there's your fusible. So I'm going to take this over to the iron. I'm going to iron these two down. So to make our pockets, I'm going to take the 8.5 by 16.5. We're going to fold each one in half lengthwise, right sides together. And we're going to use a 1/4 inch seam and just stitch along the long side of this. We will turn it right side out and press it. And then I'm going to do a top stitch along that top edge, the folded edge of the pocket. So I'm going to go get those things prepped. I'll bring them back, I'll show them to you, and then we can assemble our basket. Alright, so I have pressed my fabric onto the FoamPro single-sided. And that went on there just lovely. And then here's with the pockets. First, I folded the fabric in half lengthwise. I then stitched a 1/4 inch away along the raw edge side. I turned it right side out and I pressed it. And then you can see here is the side we stitched, and I just did a top stitch along that top edge. So that will make your pockets. You're going to need to make 2 of these, so I'll need to finish this. And then while I had the top stitch foot on, which I highly recommend you get one if you haven't had one, it's a really nice foot to use on your machine. I went ahead and I did the straps. So for the straps, you have a 4x8 inch piece of fabric. You fold it in half and press it. And then you fold in each edge to the center and press. And then you fold it one more time to give yourself a nice thicker strap for the basket. And then we did let me get it to focus here. We did a top stitch on both sides to make it look nice and balanced. Even though you really just need it on the one side to keep it closed, I did on both sides to make it nice and balanced. So I will need to finish up that strap as well. Once you have your pockets done, we're ready to position the pockets onto the basket. And so you're going to need a ruler, and you're going to measure up 3 3/4 from the bottom. And I'm going to get a little pen out to mark this for myself. So 1, 2, 3 3/4. I'm just going to put a little mark on each side. And then you're going to position the basket on, or the basket. You are going to position the pocket onto the outer basket. And then you're going to need to take some Wonder clips and clip that in place. And then we're going to do our divides on the pockets. Now, for this basket, you do have to remember that it is going to go, we're going to do a box bottom, which will create a side pocket on each side. So that pocket measurement you do need to do, but these inside ones, you can make them however big or small you would like. So let's get these on here to hold this in place. So with the smaller ruler, we're going to measure our pocket dividers. And we will take this over, we're going to stitch down these lines that we're about to draw, and then we will top stitch along the bottom. And we will repeat that on the other side, and we'll have our pockets attached to our basket. So to measure this over, the first line is going to be at 3 1/4. So I'm right now just going to make tick marks, and then I will draw up the lines. Then we're going to do a 3 inch. This is between that 3 1/4, and I believe this is 3 1/4 as well. Anything between those two you can divide up, but this and this needs to stay that size. So we've got a 3 inch, and then we're going to come in here on a 3 inch, and that makes that center pocket 4 inches. So nice good sized pockets. You could put stuff in there. If you wanted one for a pen, you can make a couple, divide one of these in half, and you could have pens or paintbrushes or any kind of long thing that you want to stick in your basket. Your seam ripper, scissors, I can keep going. All right, so let's get this divided up here for you. All right. Then I will go over, and again, I'm going to stitch down each of these lines, and then I will top stitch the bottom of the pocket. You do not need to worry about the edges because they will get caught in the seam when we put the front and the back together. So let me get that all set up, and we'll be back for the next step. So we have our 2 outer panels done, and we have all our little pockets in here, which is super cute. And with the foam, it creates a little definition for each pocket, which I find really, really cute. So that is definitely either an aesthetic or something to think about if you don't like it. I happen to like it, so it works for me. And so we've got those, and then we went ahead and we did the top stitching on our handles that look like this. So they're both done. So we've got those done. Now we're ready to assemble our lining and our outer basket. So what we're going to do for this is we're going to put these right sides together. For the outer basket, we're going to stitch all the way around. I'm going to clip it with my Wonder clips. And then for the lining, we're going to do the same thing. We'll flip this around here like this. Except for our lining, we're going to, hang on a minute, let me get it lined up. There we go. We're going to start on the side, we're going to come down, we're going to stop right about here, leave about a 4 inch opening, and then go up and go go across the bottom and back up the side. You want to make sure your opening is in the middle of the bottom of the lining so that when we do our cutouts here and here, we still have some stitching along there. It'll come clear in the next step, but just, you know, be aware that's where your opening should be, is in the bottom of the lining piece. So I'm going to get that sewn in this, well, clipped and sewn, and then I will come back and show you how to make box corners. All right, so now let me just give you a quick tip. When you're clipping the two front halves together, make sure you align the pocket so it looks like it's running all the way around the basket versus being a little bit off. You could trim top or bottom if they're a little bit off, but make sure the pockets line up. This looks like it's going to go together just perfect, but I thought I would give you that quick tip while I was actually experiencing it. All right, so we have our outer basket sewn and our lining sewn with the opening in the bottom, and we have our straps. We're now ready to do the box corners on the basket to make the whole thing stand up. So to do that, we're going to use a square ruler, a pen, and a nice pair of sharp scissors. Yes, you could do this with a rotary cutter, but you just don't have as much control with a rotary cutter as you do with a pair of scissors. So I tend to recommend cutting these corners out using the scissors over the rotary cutter. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw a 3-inch square at each corner, and then I'm going to cut on those drawn lines to create the box bottom. So there's that one, and then I'm going to repeat the same thing on this one. I love this project because it goes together very quickly. It's adorable and it's functional, so it's a great, you could use it as a gift idea. How cute would this be if you had to go to a baby shower? You could just fill it up with all kinds of baby things. Just back to school, graduation, you know, you could do all kinds of things, make it a themed container for your gift, or you could just have them all over your house, keeping your stuff organized. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. One of the other things I wanted to mention is I'm sewing on a machine that has dual feed, meaning there's feed dogs top and bottom. If you do not have that luxury on your sewing machine, you do need a walking foot to sew with all of the foam. Anytime you have anything thick, it's a good idea to pop the walking foot on your machine and not try to use just the standard feet, because on traditional machines there's only feed dogs on the bottom and it's only grabbing the bottom part, and the top, if it's thick, will kind of stagnate and then your pieces get misaligned. So if you're doing thicker things, even up to flannel, I would use a walking foot if you don't already have the dual feed feature on your sewing machine. And if you're like, I don't know if I have it, just double check with your sewing machine maintenance people, but more often than not, if you don't know if you have it, you probably don't have it. Fofs come traditionally with it all the time. The newest Berninas do have it. I'm not sure about the other brands, so I definitely would recommend checking. All right, now we're going to cut this out. I know this is the nervous part, cutting into your piece, but if you measure twice, cut once, and you will be fine. And you should not be anywhere near your pocket seam. It's 1 inch away from that, so, or 3/4 of an inch, I think. So if you're getting close to your pocket seam, double check your measurements. And something, I'm sure there's something you can do with these little guys, but I'm just tossing them. All right, now what you do is you're going to align. Let's see here on the camera, make sure you can see it. Here's my side seam, here's my bottom seam. You're bringing them up to each other and aligning the two seams, and you're going to fold it in opposite directions, and you're going to put a clip on there. Okay, and you can see now it's already starting to make that box. And I'm going to just put 2 more clips because this stuff is very thick, and I want to make sure everything is measured up right. And then we're going to do the same thing on this side. And once you start doing these box bottoms, they're super simple. It's just that first couple times is a little bit scary because you're cutting into a piece that you've already sewn up. But again, if you're cautious and you measure twice, cut once, you should be fine. All right, so we've got our box bottoms on there. So I'm going to make sure I sew those. And then we're going to do the same thing on the lining. We're going to bring the side seam to the bottom seam, opening up the cut. And again, we're going to align the two seams and fold them in opposite directions. Oops, there's my camera. And then we'll just put clips on there and clip those. I love Wonder clips for anything dimensional. I use pins when I'm quilting, and then when I'm making bags or baskets or whatever I'm making that's not flat, then I hop over to the Wonder clips. They're just a little easier, and I'm less likely to bleed all over everything by poking myself with pins. So but you could use pins if that's what you've got. It's not a problem. So I'm going to take these over. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam. I'm going to sew across each of them to have the box bottoms on our outer basket and our lining. All right, so we've got our bottoms sewn, and you can now see the lining has its box bottom, and definitely can see this has a box bottom. Now with the foam, it doesn't want, it likes to curve versus going into a box shape. That is just the nature of the foam. And normally what I would do is I would wait till the whole thing is done, and then I would top stitch down the sides and across the bottom to give it a boxy shape. But I think we're going to experiment together here. I think what I'm going to do is, while it is just like this, I'm going to go ahead and do, as you can see here, let me just so you can see what I'm doing. There is a pocket seam right there, which is lovely, and I'm going to fold it right there, and I'm going to top stitch down the 4 corners to create the box. Then I'm also going to carefully, maybe I'm going to do that first. So first we're going to do is I'm going to fold this here, going from the box seam to box seam, and I'm actually going to clip this to hold it in place for me so it doesn't shift. But I'm going to top stitch here first. This is already stitched. I'll repeat the top stitch on the back side here. And I have to say, I'm really impressed with how this foam lets me kind of sculpt it the way I want it to go. There we go. So I will do the 2 long sides. I'm going to just take this over to the machine just like this and stitch through the 2 layers. That will force the foam to stand upright. And then I'm going to also repeat that along the 4 sides. Then this piece will be boxy, and then we put our lining in, and the lining will go to the shape this is, and you won't have to worry about this trying to catch this in the seams. I have not done this before, but logically it seems like it'll make sense, so let's try it together and see how it works. Alright, before I sewed it, I thought it through. You need to turn this right side out before you do those stitches. So let's flip this back out. Now we fold it following the seam. Otherwise, it'll be very boxy on the inside, and I think it'd be harder to turn it right side out. Don't know that for sure, but I'm gonna guess that that is what would happen. So again, we're going from corner to corner and just forming that the way I want it, and putting in a couple clips to hold it so it's nice and even. You can break out a ruler and measure it as well. I'm just eyeballing this right now because, you know, it is a basket. It's not a rocket ship, so we don't have to be super precise. But you could use a ruler. It's about a 1/2 inch from the bottom of the baskets. So again, I'm going to clip here. I'm going to top stitch just like this. I'm going to put it under my machine and just top stitch that down to create that boxy bottom that I want. This side has it, but I think I might just go all the way around. I think it'll give it more of a finished look now that I'm on the outside. So we're going to do that here and here. And then here and here. I'm going to do the bottom first. We'll come back, take a look, and see if we need to do up the sides. Alright, so actually what I ended up doing, I did the bottom, just like I had said I was going to. And then I did like the way that looked, so I went ahead and I did this the 4 sides. And you can see now, it looks like a box instead of a little bit of a bowing. Now, if you decide that's not for you, you don't want to fight with that top stitching and you don't want that to bow, then I would recommend jumping over to the Cloud Fill Fleece Fusible and using that. Your basket won't stand up quite so sturdy, but you also won't need to worry about top stitching around the bottom and up the sides. I have to tell you, it really wasn't that big a deal, but if that's something that concerns you, just change what you're using on the inside. So now we are ready to put our whole basket together. So first things first is we need to put our straps on. What I did is I centered it in between this corner and this seam. And then you want to make sure you don't twist your handle. Like if you do this, it's going to be twisted. So you need to turn it. Let me put it up here so you can see it. So now we need to clip up the other side. You don't want to twist it like this. You want to make sure that it goes like this and it creates this funky W. That will make the handle go upright and not be twisted. So again, we're centering it. Again, I'm eyeballing it. You can measure it. It's up to you. And then I'm doing the same thing on this side. Big old string in my way. And again, center and clip. Make sure that it should stand up. That means you have not twisted it. That is the way I think it looks best. I could be wrong. You may like it the other way. Either way works, but for me, aesthetically, I like that better. So there is the outer basket with its pockets and its handles. And now the lining, which should still be inside out, we open that up and we're going to pop this guy right inside. Okay? And we're going to line up the side seams for the lining and the side seams for the bag. And I like to do one side at a time. So this seam is folding to the left, so you want that to fold to the left and you want it to align with the foam seam. And we're going to clip it. And then where the handles are, what I do is I pinch all three and I just use that same clip to now capture the lining as well as the handle and the basket. And then I come around on this side and I do the exact same thing. You want to make sure it's slid into the bottom. You're going to, this time this seam is pointing to the right. So we're going to go ahead and do that, and we're going to clip that. And then I'm going to hold the handle and pop in these two clips. And then I'm just going to put two on each side here just to hold it. I'm going to go over to the machine. I'm going to sew 1/4 inch all the way around the top. And then once I have that sewn, we can turn our basket right side out. And we will have to turn it right side out and top stitch that. But I will show you that on camera. And then our basket is done. So let me go top stitch, let me sew all the layers together, and then we'll come back and turn it right side out. So it's already sewn all the way around. I am just double checking, make sure I caught all the layers in my seam. That is a good practice because it's kind of a pain when you turn it right side out to then have to turn it inside out to fix something you may have missed in the seam. So now we're just going to pull it through the hole that we made in the bottom of the lining, gently and slowly because it is bulky. There we go. All right, there is the basket. So now what I need to do is I need to take the lining where we have the opening, and I'm going to go over to the iron. I'm going to fold in the raw edges 1/4 inch and press it. I will top stitch it. Then I'm going to carefully take the iron and roll the lining into the bag. So it looks like this. So you have your finished edge, and I'm going to press that, and then I will go over and top stitch that, which will actually match the other sides we did, and our basket will be done. So let me go finish the last few finishing touches, and then you will see the finished basket. All right, there it is. It is all done. I'm really happy with the top stitch I did on the sides. Like I said earlier, I've always done it catching the lining on the inside, and I probably would continue to do that. The lining's a little bit loose on the inside, where had I caught it in the seam, that might have tightened it up a little bit. I don't think it aesthetically hurts the look of the basket. It was just something to try because I hadn't tried it before. So let's wrap up on our Organize It basket. So originally this is a pattern that came from our website, thewhimsicalworkshop.com. You can certainly get it there. We will be redoing it to match what I did here, but if you just can't wait till that happens, you can get the pattern. The cutting is all the same. The only difference is if you use FoamPro instead of the stabilizer, is you only need 2 pieces because you're going to only iron it to the outer fabric. Now, why did I iron it to the outer fabric and not the lining? That is because this is the finished side and I wanted it to be nice and smooth and neat. I also was adding pockets onto that piece of fabric. By adding the foam to the fabric, it's adding strength to it. So when you're pulling on these pockets, not only are you pulling against the fabric, but you're pulling against the foam. So if you ever are wondering like which side to put your stabilizer on or your product on, I usually always put it on the finished side of my piece so that it is the nicest looking side. Make sure if you don't have dual feeds on your sewing machine to make sure you're using a walking foot. The other tips I could give you, use Wonder Clips over straight pins. Definitely use FoamPro. This stuff is amazing. It irons onto my fabric beautifully. I'm not sitting there for hours trying to get it to press down. Just make sure you have the settings on your iron as the directions tell you. And this is also the Mixology collection, which I absolutely love the dot prints in that collection. You will see through the series I do tend to gravitate towards the dots. We did an earlier blog post, so make sure you check that out over on Camelot Fabrics to make these beverage coffee wraps. And you can see I also use the polka dots for that one in my favorite color of red. I wanted something to put on these cups that get so drippy with condensation, but they also work amazing for coffee. So go to the Camelot Fabrics website, go under About Us, and under there is the link to the blog post. I'll also put a link below to make it a little easier for you. I am Heidi Pridemore of the Whimsical Workshop, and I am partnering with Camelot Fabrics to bring these products to life, to teach you guys how to use them, because I think that's really important, and to show you some projects that you can use them with. So make sure you leave me a comment below, like and subscribe, hit the bell to be notified, do all that jazz, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching.